it should be legal. Right, just say you're driving along and you hit an old person. I don't mean like you go out of your way to hit them, but like, you know, all those times you have to stop or you have to alter your movement not to hit an old person. It should just say it's legal to hit an old person over 75 by not going out of your way to stop because they're so close to dying anyway and it was their fault for getting hit. No? Alright, I'll tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story now. I had this friend in college called Jacob. And Jacob was a special character because I've never met anyone so self-centered, not in a really negative way, but so self-centered, arrogant, shameless. And shameless is the key word because he had no shame. He was born without a shame gene. And a shame gene is important. I believe it's important to have shame and healthy shame. It's good. Makes us human. But so I had this mate called Jacob, and he didn't have a shame gene, and he had this distinct hatred for old people. And we were at the lights one day going back to college, and we're waiting at these lights because walking at the pedestrian crossing. And there was a lady standing next to us. And I don't know whether he chose to ignore or he didn't realise, but he didn't realise she was blind. She had one of those cards pinned to her breast, and she had one of those, what do you call them, walking stick, or like a blind person stick. And I know that's very un-PC, yes. And we're at these lights, and we're standing there, and there's a blind woman there, and I don't know whether he knew she was blind or not, but we're waiting for the walkway to go green. There's still cars crossing, turning the corner, going. And all of a sudden, he gets his phone and he does a few things on his phone, a few button presses on his phone, and suddenly out of his phone comes beep, 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 beep. And he's Googled the pedestrian crossing, he's Googled the pedestrian crossing sound. And this lady, and like we hadn't noticed this was going on, me and another mate. And this lady starts walking across the road with a stick. And two things happen straight away. Me and my other mate quickly grab her from the thing. And a car nearly hits her and like has to brake and like puts on the horn. And after about 4 seconds of like, you know, checking she was okay and explaining to her, turn around and my mate Jacob is running up the street laughing, waving his phone up and down. Yeah, that's the story about old people. When I was like smaller, about 3 or 4, I was obsessed with like magic tricks. Well, when you're that age, you just think it's magic. And Dad could always do this one with a coin, and he swallowed the coin, and he made it come out his belly button. You know, it's incredible. It was like magic. And he must have thought that he'd subtly explained it because we were at this dinner party, and I wanted to do the same trick to the people, the adults there and the kids there. And I think he thought he'd explained it to me, but I had no idea. So he gives me this 10-cent piece, and the dinner party stops, and I announce that I'm gonna do a magic trick. And so I get the coin, and I put it in my mouth, and I swallow it, and it lodges. They told me later that it lodged in my throat like the worst way you'd want it. You know, it lodged like flat and blocked my windpipe, and I couldn't breathe. And I couldn't understand what was happening, but my dad was thumping me on the back of the back. I thought I was, getting beaten. I wasn't, I wasn't beaten as a kid. Like I thought this was what getting beaten as a kid was. And he's punching on my back, and they sort of lodged it loose a bit, but my breath sort of rasped me. And anyway, I had to go to hospital, and I was in hospital for about 8 hours while they were trying to induce vomiting, and I finally got it up. And yeah, that was my magic trick. Oh. So I did a cherry picking season with a mate who lived down the bush. I needed some money. I think it was a year out of high school or something. I don't know. And I'd never done it before. He'd done it a few times, and he knew the farmer. So he got me a gig there one summer, and cherry picking's a lot of fun because, well, it's hard work, but it's fun. You get up really early, long days. You know, you work for the money, but it is good money. But you work for it. But one day you'll pick, right, and you'll earn, you know, how much you pick. And then the second day you sit in the sheds, all the workers sit in the shed, and you sort the cherries. And you literally sit on a seat for about 10 hours and sort these cherries going along this conveyor belt. You got 3 bins. First bin goes to, and I'm not being racist here, but it goes to Asian markets, because they're the ones who pay a top dollar for perfect looking fruit. And it has to be perfect, especially Japanese. If it's got one, you know, fault to the fruit, they don't want it. So you put that in the first tier bin. And the second tier bin is where they make like most of their money. It's just the mass market, you know, Australian, New Zealand and American markets. And then the third are like the outcasts, and they're the ones that sell really cheap at like farmers markets and on the side of the road stuff. Anyway, so it was a second group day, so we're in the sheds picking. And what my mate didn't tell me is that one of the things that cherry farmers struggle with are birds eating the cherries, which is pretty simple once you realise. But what he didn't tell me was that the farmer had this giant old double barrel shotgun, and to get rid of the birds, he'd simply just go out into the farm and shoot the gun. And I didn't know any of this, so we're sitting there one time, and it was a bit of a quiet lapse. Usually we'd play games or tell stories to pass the time, but it was a bit of a quiet lapse. And we're sitting there, and next thing I know, I hear the loudest like bang I've heard in real life, and he'd shot the shotgun just about 2 meters outside of the shed, and everyone just crapped their pants and looked at him, and like everyone was like, you know, looking at him like this. And he slowly turned around while he reloaded his shotgun and he looked at us all and he said, "Work faster, you pricks." And it took us 5 seconds before we knew he was joking around. And that's probably the most scared I've ever been in my life. Yeah.